Hi, everybody. Welcome to If I'm Being Honest, straight talk about book publishing and promotion. My name is Joel Pitney. I'm the host, and today I'm very excited to have Laurinda Calongne. She is a medical clinician and healthcare executive. She's done that for over 30 years, and she's written a new book, which my company actually helped her publish, called Still Standing: Leading Well-Being in Crisis-Tested Healthcare Systems. Um, and today we're going to be talking about her work, why she wrote the book, and also how you can use a nonfiction book in particular to help build a thought leadership brand, which is something that she's done. So welcome, Laurinda.
Thank you so much, Joel. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
That's awesome. And by the way, just before we dive into the conversation, if you enjoy our podcast, please make sure you subscribe and rate and review it on whatever platform you're listening or watching it. All right, so Laurinda, I want to know, and readers want to know, what is this book and why did you decide to write it?
For me, after I like saying 30 years of healthcare experience because 36 really starts to sound or imply my age. So I'm going to stick with right at around 30 years of
That sounds good.
experience in healthcare. One of the things that I worked in South Louisiana. I started out as a medical social worker, then became a clinical trauma specialist, and then a healthcare executive. And over the course of 20 years, if you think about the state of Louisiana, the state went through Hurricane Katrina, the largest natural disaster to ever hit the United States. And then subsequently, 10 major hurricanes hit in a 10-year span.
Hmm.
And so when I think about leadership, I think about the incredible colleagues that I worked with over a 20-year period.
Hmm.
And the fact that we kept showing up while we've lost homes, our families have been displaced, we've been displaced, and we still show up to take care of our patients.
Hmm.
And so what I started to notice, Joel, we the hospital I was working for was involved in a national initiative through the Alliance of Independent Academic Medical Centers, and it was about physician burnout. And so I led our organization through a wonderful initiative that looked at what were the drivers of physician burnout, what was the rate, and then develop solutions to implement in the hospital. And I
Hmm.
realized that we did everything right. We did everything right. We followed all, the algorithm, the playbook. We did everything right.
Hmm.
And then COVID hit.
Wow. Right.
Then I started to see something different. And I think that was the wake-up call for me.
Hmm.
I wasn't observing burnout. It was something deeper than burnout. And it's what I
Hmm.
call depletion.
Hmm.
And I saw it in myself. I started having health issues because I was the leader with all the toolkits, right? Like I was working with team members to address our not only our problems but develop solutions for our organization. And so for me, it was really my own burnout journey of I couldn't go anymore. My
Hmm.
body absolutely collapsed and ended up having brain surgery at the height of COVID.
Hmm.
And that medical leave of absence for 16 weeks, it was such a wake up call for me that I could not keep going
Hmm.
and using the same tools that I had. I had to do something different. And so for the last 4 years, I had the opportunity to work at a university, slowed the pace, still had the same purpose, but then that gave me a little bit of time to kind of step away from the day to day churn of crisis. And for some reason, I don't know, I turned 60 and said, I feel like I have a voice.
Hmm.
I still have a voice and I still have a calling. And Joe, throughout my career, I've always been led by purpose, I've always been led by mission. But I felt like this was a deeper calling for me to speak up on behalf of the people that I admire most and those
Hmm.
that continue to show up and give their all in any organization. And so this book was it had a cathartic element to it, but it was really more a passion to validate the people I worked with. And then because I have been a C-suite executive for more than 20 years, I know what leaders need. They need
Mm.
practical tools,
Right.
get you so far. And then you need to give them practical tools and strategies. And so the book, I think, is a combination of both. It's some learned real life experiences, and I tell stories, and I also cite the literature because anything in medicine has to be backed by evidence. We know that. So I back it with evidence, and then I wrap up the book with a practical toolkit for leaders.
Mhm. That's awesome. So when we first started working together, that's when The Pit on HBO,
Yes.
the
Yes.
show starring Noah
Yes.
Wiley, was just coming
Yeah.
out. So I
Yeah.
always I love that show, of course, and I
Me too.
watch it. And I always think of you as sort of a composite character in that show. One part Noah Wiley, the
Yeah.
ER doctor, and then one part executive coming down and giving the bad news about budget
Yeah.
cuts and all that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
exactly. And there's so much being said about the pit. And by the way, every Thursday night at 8 o'clock Central, I'm watching the next episode.
Oh
I
yeah.
love that. And actually just put out a social media post about one of the things I love about the book is that it actually shows not just the doctors and nurses, the importance of security guards, of social workers. And
Mm,
and so it's the most realistic. And look, I started my career at what we call Big Charity in New Orleans. Charity Hospital of New Orleans was
okay.
a level one trauma center. Like if you talk to anybody in the country, if you trained at Charity, it prepares you for anything. And when I'm watching the pit, Charity was dirtier than the pit, but it just it just really reflects what my experience was in that ER.
Wow. Wow. And
Mhm.
so in terms of the book, right? So your practical tools,
Mhm.
who who did you write it for? I mean, is it for doctors? Is it for anybody who works in medicine? Is it for just the general public interested in hearing a little more about what it's like
Yeah.
to be in that environment? Who are
Yeah.
the target audiences for the
Yeah.
book?
The target, I started with the target audience being people like me, people who are
Yep.
leading and know they need what they're doing is not working. And so what can they do differently? So I wrote it from that lens because that was the world I've lived in for, more than 20 years. But in doing so, I felt this need to validate and to share personal stories that may resonate with some leaders that maybe don't understand what their doctors are going through or
Mm,
what nurses are going through. So,
mm,
um, secondary audience are the clinicians that are in the field doing
mhm.
this. I have to tell you, the biggest surprise in all of this are the people who are reading it who are not in healthcare.
Interesting.
And that has been, well, first of all, I think the hearing from doctors and nurses, physical therapists, I've heard from pharmacists saying, thank you, I feel seen. And so that's like the best thing you can say to an author or like someone who truly answered the call to have be more of a voice in this field. So that has been just so incredibly validating.
Mm,
However, what I've heard, the amount of teachers I have heard from, superintendents of schools. I'm actually going to do
interesting.
a workshop for a school organization in the summer that is taking the book. They've made it a book study, a book club, and they're applying it to healthcare settings. So the ability to work with teachers in the future, that's just so exciting for me.
That's
Um,
amazing. So it's like
yeah,
it's jumping
it's
disciplines,
crossing,
but they're
it's
like parallel
crossing.
disciplines, and because leading in
Yes.
a
Yeah.
chaotic, publicly and funded
Yeah.
environment is
Yeah.
similar from education and healthcare.
Exactly. And law
Wow, that's so
enforcement.
cool.
I've heard from law enforcement and education. Um,
Wow.
and those are people who I heard from a police chief whose wife is a nurse. So the wife read it and said, oh my gosh, you've got to read this. And the police chief reached out and said, you just replaced doctors and nurses with law enforcement, and this is our book. Like this, you're exactly right. So it's been interesting the target audience. I am hearing from leaders. I'm hearing from healthcare leaders. I'm hearing what challenges they may have implementing some of the tools. which again is kind of opening the door for me to work with that organization and help them with their path and journey forward. But yeah, the surprising thing for me has been I've heard from 3 cancer patients who have been involved in healthcare in some capacity, but didn't quite understand the stress of their doctors and nurses.
Mm,
And so
mm.
that's been, when I read the Amazon reviews, which I love reading, and sometimes I just wake up and I'm like, I'm going to read them all again. But,
And there are many, and they're all awesome. I've seen them.
and
Yeah.
to read that, I'm like, oh wow. So now patients are reading it and have a better appreciation for what their doctors and nurses go through. So that's also been a nice and a nice reward as well.
That's so cool. I recently heard someone say, I forget who it was or where it was, but they said something along the lines of they write for an audience of one, which is themselves. And I was thinking about that when in the way you were speaking, because you wrote that for yourself. And if you do that authentically, it's amazing who you can reach.
That's such an excellent point. Now that I reflect back, it it really was. I was writing it to just get it out, like get it out. I had been sitting on it for 10 years and had written a couple of articles and had presented some things nationally, but it was really more like I've got to get this on paper.
Mm,
And you're right. And then what motivated me is talking to peers who are still, it's like, Laurinda, this is not burnout. This is something bigger.
mm,
And, you know, you have a voice, you have credibility. Um, Help us, we really need your guidance. And so that was also a tremendous motivator for me.
mm. That's so cool. Well, so let's talk a little bit about the business side of this. And because I think you're just starting out. I mean, the book was launched in January,
Mhm.
um, but you've already started to gain some traction. And one of the things I like about your case in particular is that you've woven this book into other things. You're
Mhm.
not falling for the myth of if they publish it, they will come, right?
Mhm.
You don't just put it
Yeah.
up on Amazon and hope things happen.
Yeah.
You're out there and
Yeah.
you're using the book to
Mhm.
open up all kinds of doors. So
Mhm.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you have done so far.
Well, I have to tell you, it goes back to our first conversation when you
Mm,
said, what is the purpose? Why are you writing this book? And you had me think through, Laurinda, what's the end result of this? Do you want to sell a lot of books? Or do you want to, and I said to you, I want to open a conversation.
mm,
I want to open dialogue. And I mean, Joel, I credit you because you really made me start to think about, aside from this, what other opportunities might there be for people to hear the message?
mm,
And so that's naturally grown into, I've always loved to speak. I've been you know, I'm a medical educator. I know how to teach and I know how to present. And when you teach doctors, you really have to be very animated, and because if they don't like what you're teaching, they're not going to pay attention. So I think I've mastered the art of speaking. Um, I've had a consulting background, so that's been very natural too. But just to share with you what the if you don't mind, let me just kind of take you
Go
through.
for it. Yeah, we want
I,
nuts and
I
bolts. Let's
think
do this.
the first thing is the importance of social media. It
Mm,
just because you're because you launched doesn't mean anything. So the importance of finding your 10 to 12 champions or people that really believe in this, have encouraged you, have motivated you to write this, and really gauge how much they're going to help you
mm,
really promote this as well. So I've had a tribe around me of people who have reposted things on Facebook, um, and then we did a really nice like pre-launch, like just to kind of start introducing me to the world. People knew me as Dr. Calongne, worked at this hospital, was over academics, but really start to introduce the fact that I'm going into this new space. So we did that for a couple of months. We
okay.
launched. We used social
And
media. Mhm.
just real quick,
Yeah,
so you had reputation,
yeah,
but not necessarily a big following at that point.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Sorry to
And
interrupt.
no, no, no. I think And it's interesting because, what I've heard from colleagues, and there's no better message than a text from a former resident who's now a critical care physician who said, of course, you would be the one to challenge the status quo. Of course, you would be the one to say, guys, we need a new plan. We need a new path forward. And so I think for me, I do have credibility in the space of innovation and transformation just because of what we've been through in Louisiana, like losing
Mm.
basically thousands and thousands of a physician workforce after a storm and nursing workforce and then how we rebuilt from that. So
Mm.
I think, having that credibility and then getting into a new space. So I do think I had trust. I think I had trust from the market that she is someone with the experience and we know her. So I think that has worked to my advantage. And then introducing, basically saying, I am who you know I am to be, but now I'm going to take that voice and that credibility and I'm going to go and I'm amping it up. I'm now going to say, no, we need to do things differently and this is what it needs to look like. So that was a little bit of wow, am I ready for that? And then, I talked to all it takes is one person to fire me up and then I'm good to go. I will represent a whole industry. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
much fun to get me started. But so I decided to really invest in someone who understood social media.
Hmm.
And I I know a little bit about it because I had launched a Center for Professional Development at the university that I worked at. So I knew a little bit about launching a new program and overcoming some challenges with not having a name out there. And so really spent time focusing on social media to build the followers. And
Mm.
that has gone really well. But then,
What
Joel,
platforms have you focused on?
LinkedIn and
LinkedIn.
Facebook.
Right.
Facebook, I have more followers. LinkedIn for me are my decision makers because
Mm.
they are the executives, leaders of those organizations.
Mm.
And LinkedIn, we're also on Instagram, and we're going to be launching a YouTube channel. So
Oh,
we're
good.
setting that up right now. Um, I think those are the ones that we're on. Um, I think that's it. So the
So you
so for
started
me,
that you took this authority, you turned
yeah,
it into a social media platform,
yes,
which is fledgling.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's going really well, and that's getting me out of my comfort zone, right?
Mm.
Like
Mhm.
I remember someone telling me you have to go through to get to where you want to be.
Mm.
And for me to get to where I want to be, I have to go through these things that I'm not comfortable with, like
Mm.
self promotion and social media. And so this is a little bit of, stomping in mud for me, but I know I have to do this to get to where I want to be. And so what has really worked, a couple of things. I do have to say, reaching out to alumni associations from the colleges that I graduated from. So,
Mm.
sending a notice, a press release that, an alumni, that graduated. So I've gotten some traction from that.
Mm.
I've gotten some traction from just identifying those colleagues I have that have a following
Mm.
on social media and sending them a complimentary book with a note and asking them to share, if they're comfortable to share that. And that has gone really well for me. So some grassroots efforts, my hometown newspaper wrote a front page article about local girl does good kind of thing. And
Oh, that's great.
that's been great. We've had some coverage there, and I'm starting to get into the podcast to be in guest on podcasts. So to your point, we're 2 months out. So within the first 2 months, it really has been um, living in, being comfortable with the uncomfortable world
Hmm.
of where I am right now and how to do both grassroots efforts and tap into what I hear from others is working, and that's the social media outreach.
Hmm. That's great. And Pushing into the uncomfortable is awesome because everybody has to go through it.
Mhm.
Regardless of your genre, a book doesn't market itself, and
Right.
nor do any great professionals you might
Yeah.
hire.
Yeah.
It's all up to you, and you've really taken that on.
Mhm.
One thing I think I have this right. You've also started to do some institutional outreach, right? I
Yes.
mean, you talked about doing a training with the
Yeah.
with a teaching
Yeah.
organization, a school
Yes.
district or something.
Yeah.
What have you done in that regard? Because that can often
Yeah.
be a really great way for nonfiction authors.
Yes, that's the advantage of working in a field for more than 30 years is a lot of people you work with have moved on to become CEOs of other systems. And so I've reached out to all of those colleagues and Joel, immediately it's like, so when can we hire you to be a consultant? And it's like,
Mm,
well, yeah, I really want to launch a speaking practice, which is going to be launching in 2 weeks.
mm,
So I've been working on keynotes, identifying four keynote like signature talks that I can give to organizations.
mm,
I've been working on those, fine tuning those. I've done a couple that have gone really well, so I really want to promote that. I think that's going to add value to organizations of, hey, let's get her in, do this, and then I could also offer a workshop. So when they hire
mm.
me as a keynote, I can come in and offer a workshop that accompanies that keynote, maybe for identified leaders or wherever they, whatever they think the need is. Um, and then I've been an executive coach for 5 years.
Okay.
And so really starting to focus maybe on group coaching and group coaching as it's going to relate to Still Standing, the book. How do you help your organization build well-being as a strategy, as a strategic priority? So I will be looking into that. So I have a business model, I have a business plan, and I
Good for
just
you.
and
It's
I just
awesome.
keep going back to the one thing, because everybody you talk to has an idea of what you think you should do first, and you need to be doing this, this, and this. And for me, if I can offer something that adds value to a person, an organization, I want to explore it. If
Hmm.
it doesn't add value, like for instance, I don't want to be in big ticket sales. And, I get all these, well, grow your business by doing this, this, and this. And I'm like, that just doesn't feel comfortable to me. I can't go on a high ticket sales pitch kind of thing, be a woman entrepreneur. I'm like, I am all those things, but if it doesn't feel right, I'm not doing it.
Mm,
And ultimately for me is, does it bring value to the people I
mhm.
want to serve? And if it does, I'll explore it, and I'll go through the uncomfortableness to be in a comfortable zone.
I just feel like that's so inspiring because it's like from the first conversation I had with you all the way through, you've been driven by a passion to do something
Yeah,
positive. And
exactly.
that's been driving every one of your decisions every step of
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
feel like that's a big reason why you're starting to have success.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you.
So, that's interesting. So this is great. I mean, super inspiring and super helpful. And I hope that everybody has enjoyed hearing your story. I mean, whether you're interested in the healthcare system or you're interested in how to launch a book.
Yeah.
By the way, if people have enjoyed this, please share this episode with their friends. You can subscribe to our show. You can like it. It helps us get our information and the stories of people like Laurinda out to more and more people, so that they can be inspired. So I kind of like to end these interviews. The name of the podcast is If I'm Being Honest, and it's kind of a cheeky name, but the reason we say it is that I always think there's something interesting. Uh, I feel like everybody has something that maybe they it might be hard for them to be honest about when it comes to their book. And I'd be curious for you, what would you, if you're being honest,
Mhm.
like a piece of advice for somebody, if you're being just honest and frank, what would be something that you'd like to share?
If I'm being honest, I was scared to death. I was like,
Okay.
okay, let me just take that back.
Mm-hmm.
I was scared about being scammed
Mm,
because there is so much out there, publishing for $5.99. So when I started researching this, I, I was so scared of getting scammed, because I
yeah.
had a finite amount of money
Mm-hmm.
that talked to my husband about, and this is what we're going to commit. to
Mhm.
investing in this. Um, and I don't know. I got overwhelmed with this publisher, that publisher, and then I would
Mm.
put them through Chat GPT, and it was like a be wary. This might. I'm like, I don't know who's real and who's not real.
Yeah.
And you're at something came across Facebook, and it was you talking, and I'm like, oh, actually, there's a person
Oh,
who
that's cool.
like has an accent that I recognize. So let me schedule a call with him.
Not a Louisiana accent.
And right. Right. Exactly. But and so that call, I was like, I finally found like exactly what I need. And so, if I'm being honest, that I was so scared that I was getting into a space I didn't know about. And since I've gone through this journey, I've just heard horror stories. Some shared on Facebook, some shared like with like who people have been scammed. And
Mm.
so it's scary for someone who has a desire like I did to really get into this space and not have any, connections of big publishers, but need a small publishing company that I can build a relationships with. And
Mhm.
and that's what you and your team offered to me. And, thank, you know, blessings, sprinkle, whatever from heaven. Um, it has worked out tremendously to have you guys as part of the team.
Oh, that's so cool. I mean, we've loved it too, Lorinda. We do all kinds of books, but my favorite books from day one have always been mission-driven, change the world books like
Mhm.
yours. And so it's always wonderful to see someone like you start this process, as kind of as Bambi, and kind of and now you're running and prancing through the
Yeah,
forest, and it's
yeah,
so cool.
yeah.
So it's been wonderful, to work with you, and I'm really glad that you're starting to have the kind of impact you want.
Mhm. And we're
So
only just beginning, so it's gonna
yeah,
be
and it's awesome. So, just where can people find out more about you? What do you want them to do?
okay. The book is on Amazon, so
Okay.
still standing. My name is Laurinda Calongne, and you will see wonderful 5-star reviews about the book, and
Hmm.
that's been nice to see that trend. I also have a website. It's www.standstrongstrategies.com.
Hmm.
And I am visible on social media. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook. Would love to connect with anyone listening. I am all about relationships. That's and collaboration. So would love to hear from people. Would love to connect. And thank you again for this incredible opportunity to have a conversation with you today.
You bet. It's been great to have you, and we'll include all those links in in the comments and
Okay.
descriptions. So, well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.